Hello, I'm KelpNeedsHelp. Welcome to episode 2 of my series, Learning How to Play Minecraft PvP. Coming out of my little starting area and into Hypixel, my goal in mind was to be able to focus on aim. Since none of my hits seemed to land, it was easy to tell that the aim point wasn't the dead center of the screen where the crosshairs are, but somewhere else, and I was determined to find it. Something else I was excited to check out was that I could use the time it takes to learn how to aim as an example of the road ahead of me. A mini vignette and foreshadowing of what my learning arc will be for the future. At first, hopping onto Hypixel, I tried a few different mini games, but then I decided since my main goal was to figure out aim, I needed to focus on a single game. Part of setting myself up for success is gravitating toward strengths I already possess. In real life, prior to illness, I always had decent judgment of distance and enjoyed target games. Because I'm already inclined towards aim, translating it to a different medium, which is gaming, in particular Minecraft, should be my fastest ticket toward success. So I landed on bow and arrow practice. Now it doesn't have to be that way. You can start wherever and however you feel. I wanted to go this route because I knew the ego boost along the way would help motivate me to continue. Something I was swiftly humbled by very early on was how much I undermined the skills that were required for PvP. Even though I hadn't thought there wasn't skill required, I still, in the back of my mind, thought, how much was it really? There's only so many ways you can move. The hitbox from an outside perspective looks massive and boxy. From playing games like paintball, capture the flag, and tag, I was already aware of basic battle tactics and flow of combat. So how hard could it be really? Week after week I was attacking air. All my arrows weren't even close. And everyone else's arrows hit me like I was a billboard. At the very start I even wondered if my computer was set up correctly. The first piece that came together was where exactly the aim was. I found that, and this is with a caveat that this is my perception of things, not necessarily what they are, but from fighting I discovered that the aim is off-centered right, from the crosshairs. What makes things extra tricky is that doesn't include distance. When we add distance to the mix, it goes up and down along a slant depending on how far or close you are, how deep you draw your bow, impacts how much damage is done. Deep holds deals more damage while quick spamming deals insignificant damage, however the hits from quick spamming can lock up your target and give you a chance to create space. I never learned how to utilize quick hits and I still struggle with close-range bow fights, but after weeks of practice I was able to learn long range, and by the end of this mini practice arc I could shoot well enough. I was being accused of using a cheat called aimbot. When I started getting hits in, movement became a factor of focus. There aren't any shields and nothing to hide behind in these practice arenas, so movement is the only thing you have at your disposal to protect yourself. You need to move in a fashion that your opponent isn't guessing. You can walk, sprint, jump, crouch and move right, left, front and back. I hadn't considered sprinting. It wasn't until I realized that others were doing that and switching between walking and sprinting that I changed my settings on my keypad to be able to do so more easily. This took some getting used to, but as it wasn't my focus like aim was, I wasn't bothered by a slower pace of mastery which bled into more of what would come later. In total it took me about a month to reach a point of adequacy I was satisfied with. I didn't go for perfection, I went until I felt confident in understanding where aim was. Whether or not I was good at it doesn't matter because I'm going to keep practicing. I simply was going to switch where that practice was. A very important step I took while learning aim here was a step I should have started with from the beginning but hadn't. If you look at anyone learning anything from baby to elder, observing your surroundings and locating a guide is an incredible path toward success. While I had seen builder YouTubers that dabbled in fighting, I hadn't seen any YouTubers that specialized in PvP, and so during target practice I started to watch them. In watching them I was particularly keen on hearing a few key things. 1. How long it took them to be where they are now. 2. Where did they practice and how did they learn? The answer to those questions came up as 4 to 6 years to reach their success. The second answer was a bit more varied. Something called a soup server stood out to me, and from research I landed on a server called MunchieMC. it filled my requirements of being smaller but populated enough to be active, and so once satisfied with my bow practice I made the dive into Munchie MC. Hypixel does have fighting areas and soup servers, I believe. I could have started there, however there was 2 reasons why I didn't. Hypixel is a very large place and the number of individuals is overwhelming. My greatest issue though, stemmed partially because of that factor. What motivates people to play on places like Hypixel are scores. Scores alone aren't much, nor an issue, but prizes are where things got hard for me. Giving players cool visual effects to denote their status or winnings, had I not had my illness and risk for seizure I could understand the appeal. But with my illness, and no way to stop the effects playing, made the game unplayable for me. Maybe there is a way to turn it off, but I couldn't find it. While playing bow and arrow I found that staring at the ground, asking those individuals to just kill me was best. The effects were too flashy at a rate my brain was harming me, so that was my biggest issue with Hypixel. It took me a month to become adequate with a bow. I had proved to myself that I was capable of learning even with my obstacles. It was a victory. The feelings of frustration over poor performances began to grow into a place of power where even when I was losing still I knew why I was. It wasn't some unknown that would sweep me away into a forever losing cycle. I could understand and have fun. However, the environment I had practiced in was incredibly static and formal. I was very excited by the idea of adding in elements of environment, different tools, and many messy variables as opponents. That's where the real fun I wanted was, but how long would it take to get all those skills in order? It feels more comforting knowing if even by a guess. I had already assumed it would take 2 years, but that seemed so far away, and I'm always secretly hopeful that it'd be sooner, but just because top players make things look easy doesn't mean they are. They put in the work and now was my time. And so I took the plunge into my first soup server.